Once they were the traveler's ceiling, but now they're his carpet. High and soft, cushion for the cry of the jet. Come, journey with us above these clouds. Come visit beneath in Canada, where the farms and the towns and the cities lie beaded across the miles, 3,000 miles from one ocean to the other. First, before the Atlantic shore, mountains of sea, sown with such a richness of fish as to tempt 1,000 ships into the gale. Cod, herring, halibut, a great silvery profusion awaits the net so cleverly strewn from above. 4 centuries of ships have harvested here. Out of their early venturings, the settlements grew along the hard shores of Newfoundland. Settlements became colony. Colony became province, most eastern of Canada's 10. Where Europe's cannon once contended for the fisheries' wealth, a city now stands, St. John's, capital of Newfoundland. Born of the sea and of fishing, St. John's also looks to new industry for the sources of its commerce. But the sea, its spirit and its arts, is ever present in the life of St. John's. One of these maritime arts, much celebrated in song, is squid jigging, for the lowly squid makes enticing bait to catch the cod. Vigorous work.
Come on, you people! Jump it! Where you go? Now, come on.
Vigorous respite for the hardy people of Newfoundland. And a game that is part of the heritage of England and Ireland, where their ancestors came from. Scottish traditions now in the neighboring province of Nova Scotia. Here, too, the Atlantic, its wealth and adventure, pervades the flavor of history, a history that has many links with Scotland. Fierce to the eye, gentle to the taste. And for the people of Prince Edward Island, another bounty from the sea to grace the tables of gourmets across the land. The island province, small and serene in the Gulf of the St. Lawrence, has Charlottetown as its capital. This quiet city has special meaning for Canadians, for it was here in 1864 that representatives of 4 of Britain's North American colonies met in historic session at the Provincial Building. And from this meeting grew Confederation in 1867 and today's independent Canada. The mainland again, inland now, to New Brunswick's swift rivers and streams. Here, through thick stands of spruce and fir, pine and cedar, the waters gleam with salmon to fight the angler's line. Westward again, a few hundred miles, and find Montreal, the metropolis. Find Montreal and see how it grows between its river and its mountain, and out from its mountain in every direction. Montreal Airport, only 6 hours from London in the age of the jet. For travelers, this is often the first view of Canada. And it was the first view of a new home for many of the 1.5 million immigrants who came to Canada during the last 10 years. With bold new lines, the airport's terminal symbolizes Montreal's role as aviation capital of Canada. Aviation capital and a center for industry and commerce. Transportation and shipping capital for a country that ranks among the leaders in the world's trade. And everywhere, new buildings to affirm the growth and prosperity of Canada's largest city. The people? About a third of them speak English, and 2/3 French, making Montreal the world's second largest French-speaking city. Only Paris is bigger. And in parts of Montreal, like Old Bon Secours Market, hardly a word of English is likely to be heard. It is from this French heritage that much of Montreal's liveliness stems. For here is a city that really likes to enjoy itself. Theater, dining, dancing, nightclubs. Montreal has it all in great variety. And not far away, when winter comes, there's still another form of recreation. Skiing like this can be found only an hour away from Montreal. And when the day skiing is done, relaxation has that special zest that seems to go with the sport. Many ski resorts here, both north and south of Montreal, and they range from simple country inns to hotels that rival those of the city itself in luxury and elegance. North of Montreal, the old farms of Quebec, laid out by 17th century pioneers so as to cling to the St. Lawrence River. For the river was their main highway down to Quebec City, capital of New France. Today, the guns of Quebec recall the city's history as a fortress, one of the greatest in America. French influence is nowhere stronger than in Quebec City. And in the provincial legislature, the debates are almost entirely in that language. Everywhere in the city, there are reminders of the past, colorful ways of doing things that are a delight to the tourist. The very streets themselves, narrow and full of animation, reflect a way of life that is rooted in the centuries. Downriver from Quebec City, toward the sea again, more farmland, dotted with villages. This is the Gaspé, a region of Quebec that has strong local traditions. Here, as elsewhere in the province, the family unit is the very core of life. From their earliest days, the children of Quebec find that the church is to play an important role in their lives. At school, they soon become aware of their unique history. For French Canadians, faith and family loyalties are transmitted from one generation to another. And sometimes skills are transmitted too, from father to son. Today, wood carving and other handicrafts manage to survive amid the expanding industry of Quebec. Leaving Quebec, one of the air routes leading to the west soars high over the St. Lawrence Seaway, one of the great engineering feats of our time. With its huge complex of canals and locks, the seaway now makes it possible for ocean-going ships to penetrate to the very industrial heart of Canada, the province of Ontario. But Ontario is not only industry and trade. At Stratford, a famous face symbolizes another side of the life of the province. William Shakespeare. The festival of his plays held here every summer has won world renown for this Ontario city. At Stratford, the clamor of swords. At Niagara, the roar of the greatest tourist attraction of all. Near Hamilton, traffic converges on a city that pulses with industry. Heavy machinery, electrical apparatus, chemicals, pottery, tobacco, paper products. But above all, iron and steel. For in recent years, these mills have become among the principal heirs of the great mining developments in Canada's north. Further along the shore of Lake Ontario, first of the Great Lakes, lies Toronto, metropolis and capital of the province. It's a center of communications, and it has come to rival Montreal as the country's commercial capital. For here is a city bursting with the energies that make for business expansion. Besides new commercial buildings, Toronto boasts new centers for entertainment and the arts. There is real cultural ferment here, and never before has the city seen such large audiences for theater, music, and the dance. But the biggest show of all is still the great Canadian National Exhibition. Held for 2 weeks every year, it draws nearly 3 million visitors. It has its serious side, but there's light entertainment too. And memorable grandstand spectacles. So Toronto expands with sky-high ambition as it clamors for elbow room, for growing industry, and a population of 1.75 million. Westward again, 1,000 miles further into the heart of Canada. This is Winnipeg, largest city of the Western Plain and capital of the province of Manitoba. From its early days as a fur trading outpost, Winnipeg has grown rapidly in its commerce and has attracted a great diversity of immigrants from Europe and Asia. In the faces of Winnipeg, there is vivid reflection of many racial origins. These people's forefathers came seeking the freedom of the West, and they found it in the broad prairies where the richness of the earth made the future bright with promise. The great flatlands of the West were a strong magnet for early explorers like La Vérendrye, whose epic journey of 1743 took him 2,000 miles across the unknown continent, almost to the Rocky Mountains. But where La Vérendrye found only league after league of empty land, today's traveler finds cities and towns that arise out of the prairie to greet him. This is Regina, capital of the province of Saskatchewan. It's a typical prairie city, but one with a few surprises, like water sports right in the heart of town. Outward from Regina, in all directions, stretch the great wheatlands that blanket the 3 prairie provinces. From these acres come 500 million bushels a year and more, rich, unexcelled grain to ship to 100 countries around the world. Much newer than wheat in the story of the West's prosperity is oil. Its discovery meant dramatic change. A country that had been dependent on others for this vital fuel was now quickly turned into a major producer. More than 100 million barrels a year, and still in the ground, as much oil as all the rest of the world's estimated reserves. Oil has transformed much of the province of Alberta, but in its cattle country, life hasn't changed very much. True, some ranches are so big that it helps to have an airplane to get around them, but the solitary cowboy is still the mainstay. For the great ranch lands of Alberta, Calgary is the hub. This easygoing city is the most westerly of the prairie centers. Beyond it, the Great Plains gradually come to an end, and there is a dramatic burst of mountains, the Rockies. Nestling in the Rockies are resort towns that attract visitors from all over North America and from abroad. Every holiday pleasure can be found here, and there are special attractions for nature lovers in the protected parklands where animals are free to roam unmolested. Warm and sunlit days in the high, clear air of the Rockies. Mountain, sky, and rushing water combine to make a majestic backdrop for vacations in this area's great national parks. Deeper now into British Columbia, farthest west of the 10 provinces. Here, the orchards of the Okanagan Valley flourish in a kindly climate. For in winter, the Rockies shield them from the stinging Arctic air. Apples, peaches, apricots, and tomatoes all grow in rich profusion here. For all their beauty, the Rocky Mountains were once a great barrier to the unity of Canada, for they isolated British Columbia from the rest of the nation. But in this century, the airplane and roads like the Trans-Canada Highway have drawn the province ever closer to the center of the country. This was a task begun in the last century when the railroads were finally pushed through these forbidding heights. Fraser and the Columbia, mighty rivers flowing down to the Pacific. And on the Pacific itself, the city of Vancouver, third largest in Canada. For Vancouver, the mountains form one of the loveliest settings of any city in the world. And the sea provides a fine natural harbor that attracts a thriving trade. Much of this trade is with the Far East, and Vancouver is unique among Canadian cities in its feeling of closeness to the distant Orient. A busy city, but one that appreciates leisure and the proximity of nature. Fine parks and a mild climate contribute to a most agreeable way of life. And there's always the feeling of water nearby. Ocean, inlet, river. The rivers of the area are highways for the lumber trade, bringing logs downstream to busy sawmills. From Vancouver, across the Strait of Georgia to Victoria, capital of British Columbia. It's a graceful city with an atmosphere often likened to that of towns in the south of England. Here on the Pacific coast are the western limits of Canada, more than 3,000 miles from the Atlantic shores of Newfoundland. In between, 10 provinces of great variety, of tremendous diversity. But flying eastward again, we find the focus of their unity, Ottawa, the national capital. Parliament Hill. This is the very heart of Canada. For here in the House of Commons and the Senate, the representatives of the people deal with the destiny of the nation. In Parliament, the clash of debate reflects the country's diversity. But Canadians know that this very diversity means strength. For visitors, it means an ever-changing panorama of peoples and places, of cities and rivers, of mountains and plains, from one ocean to another.